I think when one has lived through a war, peace becomes even more important. And I'm very fond of Make Me a Channel of Your Peace, which uses the words of St. Francis of Assisi.
Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. Oh, Master, grant that I may never see so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. And where there's darkness, only light. And where there's sadness, ever joy. Oh, Master, I can never see so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, in giving to all men that we receive, and in dying that we're born to eternal life. Eternal life.
In peacetime and in war, hymns have lifted spirits and brought comfort and joy. And our next is one that speaks of God's steadfast love amidst all the storms of life, and will no doubt have been on the minds of many a soldier as they approached these beaches of Normandy. Among the many thousands that fought their way ashore on D-Day, there was a group of men who never took up arms. They were the chaplains, ordained men of various denominations who stood shoulder to shoulder with those they served. One of the first to land here on D-Day kept a diary which has been described as one of the most vivid and illuminating of all war memoirs. J.J. Chalmers went to the Imperial War Museum, Duxford, to read it for himself.
June 6th, 1944. Up 0500 hours, cold, wet, seas rough. This is it.
From my time serving in the Royal Marines, I know the value of a good chaplain, or padre as we used to call them in the British forces.
Methodist minister Leslie Skinner was padre to the Sherwood Rangers on D-Day. His daughter Annette knew very little about his wartime service until he revealed his diary late in his life.
So once you finally read the diary, what were your first thoughts?
Gosh, because that was a side to my father I knew nothing about.
0700, running for the beach, under fire by 0710.
He saw it as his mission to go over on D-Day, but the landing craft he landed on was hit.
I was blown backwards onto a Bren carrier, but okay.
He describes him having a terrific pain in his left side, but on that same day he carried 46 invalids out to a boat that was going back to England, and he had to carry them up the rope ladder. He was only 5'6". How he got the strength to do that, I do not know. And that, to me, sets the tone for my father.
He was unusual in his insistence that he experienced the same sort of activity that the people in the front line experienced. He doesn't just minister in a religious sense, he does things like he carries cans of food and water to the front line when he thinks the guys have been out there and probably under it a bit. He'll volunteer to do that sort of thing.
But of course, one of his primary duties was to carry out hundreds of funerals, often for men who had become his friends. Friday, 9th June. I buried him close by the hedge, near where he was killed. Being quite alone and reading the brief order of service over the grave affected me deeply.
He wanted to shield the men as much as he could from the really terrible sights that were apparent when comrades and men in the unit had been killed in action.
Friday, 4th August. At another tank, 3 bodies still inside. Squadron leader offered to lend me some men to help. Refused. Less men who live and fight in tanks have to do with this side of things, the better. My job. This attitude meant that Padre Skinner often found himself in harm's way.
You know, army uniforms, you run out of pockets, so he always put his Bible in his beret, you see. And when he was shot, the Bible absorbed the shrapnel.
You've got to think someone was looking over him that day.
Well, exactly.
Padre Skinner survived the war and served in many different Methodist churches. He died 6 weeks short of his 90th birthday.
So, how do you remember him?
Funny, dry, kind. He was a good dad.
Since the war, Harry has worked tirelessly to commemorate the sacrifice of Normandy. He's brought me to the cemetery where many who gave their lives 75 years ago were laid to rest. When you're here, how do you feel?
I like with the boys. None of these fellows are dead. To live in hearts we leave behind is not to die. Love is the strongest thing. Love is stronger than death. You're going to read the 13th Corinthians, and it says, now abideth faith, hope and love. I studied the book, and I'm more convinced now in my faith that the Lord carried me through all this for a purpose. And I'm delighted and honoured to be able to do what I do.
You must have been quite a lot of comfort to your fellow soldiers if you were, if you were keeping positive.
Say a prayer. I was with a lot of hard men, real killers in the war, and when we was in a sticky place, they said, well, what are we going to do? I said, well, say a prayer. And do you know what? After every skirmish, and where we were in a dodgy position, they used to say a prayer, Al, and I used to do that.
What was your prayer, do you remember?
My prayer, yeah, it starts off, "Serve us with thy continual help, and all our works begun, continued, and ended in thee, we may glorify thy holy name, and finally, by thy mercy, obtain everlasting life through Jesus Christ our Lord." And he's on the way back. He's coming back. There's all signs in the Bible tells you that. To make a new heaven and a new earth.
A lot of people watching this programme might say, you know, where's God in war? Why did God allow all these people to die?
Well, nothing to do with God, is it? It's the evil bloke, the evil that's in every man. Then there's a divine spark in every man too. The light of every man that comes into the world. Just got to fan it. I want everybody to remember, because I can't forget. And I can't.
Do you wish you could?
No. But they all gave their lives for the cause. It's terrible. I can still hear it. The guns of Aramarch are silent, but I still hear them to this day. Yeah, every day.